Okay, it's closed now. We'll go into session. All right.
Okay, I don't really have a whole lot for you guys, but I just wanted to, I'm lacking one quote for coming to you with the gear, so I am hoping by the first Wednesday in October, I'll be coming to you guys to talk about that, and give you guys that information. In regards to that, there is a grant, I prepped and everything right in for a gear extractor. It's essentially a dedicated gear washing machine. We've never had one of those before, so the person don't really haven't been able to wash their gear. Can't wash it in a regular washer because it's bad on the gear, any of the chemicals that are used, clear down the pH levels and be destructive to the gear. It's a zero cost share through the Kansas Fire Marshal. So they actually have all the information for the gear extractors themselves. I just wanted to let you guys know about that. Make sure that we're okay with it.
Must be out there at the building.
Yeah, it would be, we put it out here in the cleanup room essentially. It's where we have the washer dry for the medical stuff. So,
Zero cost.
zero cost share.
That's kind of hard to turn down.
I wouldn't worry about that one anyway.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll get it, but I mean, in the end, like, being able to wash the gear.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It's actually supposed to be done by NFPA standards annually at a minimum. And we've never been able to do that.
Do they wash their own, or they gonna turn it in, or?
They can, or they can bring it into me and I'll take care of it. The way they recommend is somebody be certified by that company, which is pretty easy to do. It's an online training for most of the companies. So it's not real hard, but it's just measuring, making sure you match the pH levels and everything as far as the soaps go, and don't wash it too hot. You can't, ironically enough, you can't wash fire gear too hot because it breaks it down.
That sounds good.
Actually, every time that the gear is used, it breaks down. That's why it's got that 10-year life. And
Right,
so
right.
no longer it sits in the sun, even keeping it in buildings where exhaust and everything's present, it all builds up carcinogens onto the gear. And that's what's causing cancers and stuff in firefighters, especially around the wrists and the neck areas. So it's one of the advantages to be able to clean the gear annually. So hopefully we'll get this one way or another.
So all you have to do is just request. You don't have to, surely there's got to be forms to fill out.
Right. There's a grant form that I
Yeah.
wrote out, and I just, before I actually, it doesn't require it, it requires a fire chief signature.
Okay.
So as soon as I got your guys' okay on it, I'll sign it and get it sent in. It's got an October 1st deadline, so.
I think we better move on it.
Yeah. So,
Sounds good.
but hopefully we'll see you guys in 2 weeks with all that information. There's
You
some,
won't be here.
The third, yeah.
If you
I will
want all
not be
three of
here
you
the
to
third.
watch that or whatever. I mean,
it's up to you. I know that the one is, we're kind of on there's a cell per se that's currently ongoing, and it ends in the middle of October. So, they didn't give me an exact date. They just said middle of October is when that cell ends. So,
Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna be gone on this, is it the sixth?
third,
No, I'll be gone.
No.
I will not be here the 3rd of October. That's the first Wednesday. So you got time.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Carolyn, I have an extra first page of that letter. Do you have them all, Kurt?
Yeah.
and I think I did, should I give you my copy? Okay, yes, I did, sending you. Do you mind,
Go ahead.
I think, this. I tried to condense some talking points to a farmer yesterday that had an interview with a ag reporter, and I think I printed it up.
How did that go?
I think, okay. I mean, I wasn't there for it. But,
Did Brian do it?
yeah.
Didn't he feel like he got his point across?
I think so. Said it went fast. It was supposed to be a 5 to 6 minute interview, and they went 10 minutes, and it still felt like it went fast. But
Yeah.
he was trying to get the stuff in, you know, the economic impact. And I'm trying to provide some, you know, unity and a message of how we can fix it. So, you know, the idea that, you know, if we just push for augmentation on the refuge, it's the most efficient way to accomplish the goal. Conserves water, it's, can be done if the Department of Interior won't resist it. And so, minimize, yeah, I look at my own talking points. Minimize impact to the local economy, is environmentally responsible, and.
Look at him.
Oh.
Did you get permission?
It's copyright.
There you go. I have a lot of people stop and ask me
Wow,
questions all
this
the
is a
time.
hot topic.
Okay, and here, honestly, I was crunching to get this out before, so the plate, we kind of talked about the idea of wanting to provide some kind of quantification of the economic impact, and I felt like I needed to kind of verify my approach to it by someone that needs economic research, so I actually found the person I feel really good about contacting at the Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City. So they do economic analysis all the time, and I found somebody I hadn't previously had occasion to work with before, but she specializes in agricultural economy analysis. So she's very responsive, helped me with that, and she I don't know, consulted with some colleagues and told me that a multiplier of 1.7 to 2.5 would be, and she was okay with me stating that the Federal Reserve provided the multiplier, so that adds some credibility to it.
Money turns over that many.
Yeah,
I thought it was more than that.
well, you know, I know you said something like
Community-wise, I think it
7,
does.
but if you think about 7, I mean, I started thinking about that, that's over $1 billion in this area, so that is maybe,
Well, I think specifically a city, you know, or a community. You know, like St. John, that you have a manufacturing or whatever, that money. And that came from K-State, and that was several years ago, when, you know, when they did the health
you know
assessment.
what? I wonder if they're talking about the tourism dollars that come in for that, just that specific part of, at any rate.
Anyway.
At any rate, when I talked with her about, you know, the way that we developed the estimate of revenue, the amount of irrigation wells affected, how much you would expect each one of those to produce. So overall scope of revenue
Mhm.
generated and how that could be reduced. And, you know, we talked a little bit about the idea just 5% water doesn't necessarily mean 5% reduction in revenue, because there's the impact of, is it the right amount of water at the right time, and, you know, whatever. And I told her that I felt like we could arrive at a reasonable range of that by talking with farmers. What I needed was her guidance on how we calculated the full impact on that related to, you know, agronomy and grain merchandising, fuel and trucking, and, you know, housing and unrelated retail ag-related retail jobs and all that kind of stuff. And she told me, and I guess I put the range there, but up to 2.5 would be on the high end of that. But I guess if you really think about it, you know, all of that revenue isn't, it's not all profit, it's maybe one way of looking at it, so it can't all be, I don't know, anyway. I will say that that's the methodology she guided me to use, and even at that, 30 to 125 million in this area of impact. And I tried to put that in perspective by, you know, when I told her, you know, the assessed valuation of our county, which includes all land, all improvements, buildings, commercial housing, personal property, utilities, all of that. The valuation, tax-wise, assessed valuation is $90 million. And she went, oh, you know, I think they're generally talking in, you know, bigger scopes of
Yeah.
numbers, right? So, you know, trying to put the perspective that, you know, in an environment that's the total valuation of what we're dealing with, and you're talking about something that could reduce, you know, how do we put it? The full effect could range from 30 to 125 million for this action. I tried to put in perspective, you know, like what are the, you know, these entities say they're gonna be affected, how much are they gonna be affected? Well, they only have a 13 million, you know, the big one has a $13 million budget in the first place. You look at the school districts, you know, a $5 million budget, get into the cities, there's under $1 million. And, you know, this action could have an effect of $30 to $125 million of revenue in our community each and every year ongoing. So,
Now, what was that specific word they used about the augmentation?
strategic,
Strategic. Did-
you know, yeah, we might make sure that I did use that word strategic augmentation. You know what, it's a long letter, but I thought it's our chance to make the point.
You got a lot of stuff you
Whatever.
need to get across to them. I mean, it's gotta be long.
And I don't know how many people you want trying to sign this letter. We talked about the city, the mayors, but do you want to try to, I don't know, get everybody under the sun to write this, you know, from neighboring counties and so forth?
I'd leave it in our county.
Yeah.
Or do the other neighboring counties? Do they need to
Yeah,
I don't
let them
know.
do something.
I mean,
I didn't know that we want to just send our letter that has our 30 signatures on it and then forward a copy of the letter or something and say, if you guys want to, we'd appreciate. Because I'm afraid that if we send it off to the city council and they want to discuss it till the next meeting, we're going to get drawn
send it out to
out.
school boards.
And I mean, I think we need to get it done now. Or pretty quick. I mean, I think time is of the essence.
If you wanted to do our cities, I don't think there's going to be a lot of debate over it, because they've already been talking about it, at least St. John has.
Yeah. But I would forward that to Josh Meyer and I'm sure they would do something with it.
Well, he was actually part of, well,
Is Josh talking?
Josh was in my office yesterday, and yes, he wants to be able to kind of be consistent in the message, you know, in how we quantify the impact and in how we're asking. I think people are asking, what can we do? If we see the importance now, what can we do? And here's, I don't know, this is what I'm thinking after a little bit of reflection is, if they can, I think what we need to be pushing for is the Secretary of Interior to getting involved and supporting this solution. Because if we feel like the mid-level bureaucrats are what's holding that kind of agreement up, or I don't know that it's necessarily an agreement, but I get the sense that the chief engineer isn't willing to make a ruling that they are not going to be supportive of.
Yeah.
And so if what's holding that up is mid-level bureaucrats at Department of Interior, then why shouldn't we ask for the secretary to get involved and push for this kind of, I don't know, yeah, agreement's probably not the right word, but solution. So if we can, I don't know that all of our citizens need to call the Secretary's office at Department of Interior, but they can call our representative and pass that message on. So call your representative and ask them to push the Secretary of Interior. Should have a different thought on that.
Are you, you know, we talked about trying to get it put in some newspapers or something like that, or even, I mean, is that something where you can try to push that a little bit, or you just gotta hope that they pick it up, or?
Well, I can push it if you want me
You can
to.
send
I mean, I would think as much press as we could get on the deal would be better, because,
Our talk radio show next week.
I mean, I don't-
Definitely talk about this, if, you know, and, I mean, I haven't called any of the news stations, but if we have others, I think, I don't know that I'm necessarily the one that needs to be on front all of this, but, I can certainly, get stuff going if we feel like somebody else is ready and comfortable and all that kind of stuff, being interviewed,
Yeah.
line that stuff up.
So you feel comfortable
I'm
being
looking
interviewed,
your
correct?
way.
I don't think I'm a good enough public speaker. Brian does a good job.
Somebody smooth.
Yeah, some,
Well, I was wondering about, KFRM or.
Well, it wasn't KFRM, it was is it Ag Day? But it's the KSN's version of the ag programming
Mhm.
that I think you're up at 5 o'clock this morning, you might have heard Brian. I don't know how much they like rebroadcast that stuff in other formats or whatever, but,
I just don't know if the people, even people that live in Maxville, Stafford, St. John, that aren't in agriculture realize how much this is gonna affect the communities. And by the time it gets done and they start seeing it, it's gonna be too late. But I mean, I think like on everything, if we could get this out in the public's eye, start, if we could get some airtime, I mean, I think it'd go a long ways on Fish and Game because they don't want it to look bad on them.
yeah. So, I did also call Iowa County Media Center last week about how, some type of video that explains this could be put together to be shared on, formats. People aren't watching TV in the morning and stuff like that. How do you also get the message to them? And so I don't know, we've talked about a Facebook type video. It basically needs me to be real clear on how we want to structure that. And I think I'm a little more clear this week than I was last on kind of the short message being, here's the impact, and here's what we need to do about it.
I think you definitely, before starting to talk about maybe trying to get it on some TV channels or interviews, we definitely need to figure out who wants to be our talking person for this deal. Because I mean, you don't want them to show up on the square and pull somebody out the street and say, what's your point of view, that they don't know what's going on? I mean, if they want to come down, you need to say, well, this is the person you need to talk to.
Absolutely.
That's somebody that's well informed.
After reading through that, I think you mentioned it one time, but one thing maybe I think could be emphasized a little more to me, the irrigators are bending over backwards. They have, the Quivira has nothing in the game really. I mean, they're bending over backwards to help them out and they're getting kicked in the teeth basically. I don't know quite how to say that either, but you did mention that, the expense was on them. I would maybe emphasize that a little bit more. They realize Quivira doesn't have anything to lose.
Right, partly because they went through it.
I know. And to me, it's too bad that we have to put pressure from people in the public to do it. It ought to be something we could arrange with Department of Interior and Quivira, that people wouldn't have to put political pressure on to do something like that. It's just a common sense thing, really.
So, yeah, I
But-
know, it is here at the end of but I did say, we have the perception that what is holding this agreement, and I did use the word agreement, back, is the resistance of mid-level leaders within the U.S.
Yeah, I
Department
saw
of Interior,
that.
so.
Yeah,
I-
I don't know if we even really know where all of it.
And at the same time, there's
Resistance.
part that says, somebody needs to call a spade so that we can get past it.
Yeah. On this deal, here on the second paragraph, where it says by Kansas law, Quivira's surface water rights is senior to the groundwater rights of most irrigators. Should a guy put in there Kansas, let's see, Kansas law, by Kansas law, Quivira's recreational surface water rights?
They should know that.
Because it is a recreational water right.
They should know that. That's who you.
Is there a difference between a recreational water right and,
Yeah, like if you have a pond out behind your house that you want to pump water into, you have a recreational water right.
But the people in the Department of the Interior should already know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like this letter's trying to educate the public, you're trying to twist their arm to be smart
And you may touch
Agreed.
base with Orrin, but I'm sure Orrin had said several times that that was a recreational water right.
Yeah.
And that our water rights are more agricultural water rights.
I'm not sure it makes any difference number-wise, so.
No, not number-wise. It's just what
They
they
are
call
senior
them.
and they were found to have been impaired upon, so I suppose
I've got a
they
recreational.
could, I mean, if it were two irrigators having the same battle, right, you wouldn't, we probably wouldn't have the same way to apply political pressure that we do when the water right happens to be held by a public entity, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like on my recreational one, all they did was just move it over from the agricultural one over to the recreational one, so it's got the same
Yeah,
power.
yeah. It just kind of states it, I mean, recreational, I mean, it is for just bird watching.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anything in there like what we said the other day about, it does nothing for our economy. To have it over there.
Well, you know, even Brian was saying that he was interested in making a point that we don't get a lot of tourism business, but it wasn't
Yeah.
time, it wasn't the most important
No.
thing to have brought up, so it's stuck to the more important stuff.
I think in regards to tourism, Martin County's the one that benefits more from it than Connie, Stafford, Reno County.
Yeah.
It amazes me how much things change on Pulvera from who their manager is to who the manager is. I mean, it'll be one way, and I mean, you know, the last person, you know, was all right with trees growing on Pulvera. This person wants all the trees out, wants it to look like, you know, just native pasture ground. But then even on like their, how many cattle they used to graze. I was told at one point, years ago, they used to run 11,000 head of cattle on Quebec. And that now they've got that cut down to like 3,000 or something.
Well, maybe there's a broader range of where, okay, I have this written down, somebody told me 1,100 down to 150, but it might be within a certain paddock, and then
Yeah.
the whole thing. that
And
we
you may
talked
be
about.
right, because I was just talking to some guys that it used to run cattle over there. How their fences used to be kept up in good shape, now it's bad, and then their rotation of grazing now is a pain in the,
Let's see that date.
Every like 10 days, you have
yeah.
to change it.
You have to change the cattle from pasture to pasture every 10 days. But you know, if they're talking about not being, you know, have a lack of funding, if your numbers are right and you were raising 1,100 cattle and you cut it down to 150, that's a big revenue source that they've cut themselves.
Well, okay, so, again, how long do you make the letter? But
Yeah,
Brian's-
no, I know.
Brian's point was that, well, I'm like looking at that consultant that wasn't hired, his approach was you help them with the problems that become your problems, you know, basically. So if they don't have enough resources to manage the reserve correctly, if you can help them get the right resources to manage it correctly, then that also takes pressure off of the problems that we're having is, so I don't know, I mean, I didn't put it in here that they need the resources to
No.
do it
No.
correctly, and
I was just making the statement, I can't believe how much from manager to manager. I mean, I figured Quebec and all refuges kind of had this is the way it operates, and that guy looks at these guidelines, but I mean, it looks to me like they almost gotta write their own deal.
We've had a good one about 20 years. I think you could have made an agreement.
So you're
So
just,
they're-
you sent this off to Warren and let them look at it and see if they want to make an argument.
I asked them for factual accuracy and also, you know, just that check of, for that, you don't have to your mind to get that going, so.
Yeah.
I think it's very good, very close to
Everybody would write it a little different way, and then, but that's very close. You got a lot of people signing the same letter, everybody did it a little different.
Are we gonna send this to anybody else other than him, or is
Well-
this who?
I think, I would copy our congressional delegation, Jackie, the Secretary of Ag. Is there anybody else?
I mean, those are basically the important ones.
Has Josh talked to the other school districts?
I think he has,
Are they willing to?
I don't know.
Oh.
I think he shared the letter with them and,
Maybe I'll send it to our representative and sign it. Locally.
local.
Yeah. And they ought to be aware of what's going on, I think. We ought to let them know what we're doing.
Maybe they should sign on to the letter. Because they really don't have influence on it in the State House. It's more the idea that if we showed political unity here
I agree.
toward, you
Yeah.
know, DC.
Yeah.
If you want me to have Mary Jo Taylor and
I'd be interested to see.
Greg Lewis.
I'd be interested to
Consider-
see if you could get her to sign.
Congressman Marshall give much
He had,
feedback.
he had something coming for the last month, said we're gonna do it next week.
Okay.
I said, I'll probably be drilling wheat, well, we'll do it the next week then. So,
Okay.
but I probably, whatever the final letter is that we send off, I'll probably make a copy of it and then give it to him.
So, was that I should share it with Greg and Mary Jo?
I would.
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
So if there's interviews to be done, I don't feel comfortable doing it. Do you, Kurt?
If they called me on the spur of the moment and wanted to talk to me, I'd do it. I don't really want to go around advertising that I want to, but if they call me, I'd give them time to talk to them.
I mean, I didn't know whether we wanted to try to get somebody up, you know, up to speed with the talking points and stuff like that. I mean, it's gotta be somebody that comes across.
I mean, if you sign a letter like that, you probably better be willing to talk to them.
Yeah, I would, but if Carolyn called me and said I had to do a news interview with Cape News next week, I'd have a stroke.
Or CNN's.
Yeah, CNN's. So, but,
If they
Well,
called
I
me
can-
and wanted to do something, I'd talk to them.
And Brian would too.
Yeah. But I think with anybody that signs the letter, I would be willing to,
Yeah, I mean,
at
I
least
would
to
talk.
answer their questions.
I was just hoping, hopefully, that we end up with some big interviews out of this deal. I mean, I do think Brian comes across good. You know, so,
There's a number of guys that could do that too.
Well, Osborne has all the
Just, there you go,
Just-
yeah.
just a loss of Brian.
Kent,
When I get real nervous in deals like that, I end up saying,
you know what I mean?
Well, even Alex, has that perspective being a farmer and our economic development
Alex.
president,
Alex
he's,
Mossberg.
he's articulate.
Yeah, he is.
yeah. And I mean, if you could warn them and give them your talking points to where they can get.
Right.
I just don't realize, you know, I know the GMD board is trying to do the best they can, but I mean, basically, that Lima proposal came from Barfield and said that's what the only thing he'll sign off on. And And I mean, I don't think people realize how devastating that's gonna be to the community.
I think the people in town think it's just gonna affect the farmers.
Yeah.
They're not thinking of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
from the ones that I talked to.
Well, it makes everything down.
But they don't think that big, you
And I
Just
mean,
what's in front of my mailbox.
know. Right.
I mean, Josh and Jed Fisher were at that meeting, and I said, this is what could
That's good.
cause the three-school consolidation.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I
Very well
mean-
good.
And I mean, on the consolidation, it's gonna devastate 2 towns.
Mhm.
It's good for the bankers involved too,
Yeah.
because it'll cripple the bank.
But I mean, all these schools right now are at the tipping point. If you take 20 students, I could see 20 jobs, or a lot more than that,
Oh,
leaving this community.
sure.
Keep going.
So-
That's what they said the
So
other
that's
day.
probably the other thing that needs to be right here on this talking point list, is that this isn't just about farming.
Yeah.
You know.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, he said, we appreciate all the help we can get.
All businesses.
Because their hands are really tied.
Schools.
Since they're an agency.
Yeah.
Just some of that.
You know, he said, we will welcome any help that we can get, you know, because they are an agency and their hands are tied.
The
Jim,
GMD5 board.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, we're not in the negotiating deal, but if we can get them to where they come to the table and negotiate with GMD5
Mhm.
on a better basis, I mean, that's our deal, is to try to get them to negotiate
Yeah.
a better deal.
Yeah, we need to find somebody that's not in the farming community, maybe Josh Meyer is, I think he has become well informed about this issue, and he's kind of uncomfortable doing that, I mean, somebody
Or Chad.
that can be
I think Chad would be good too.
there, yeah, you're right,
Between Chad, Josh, I mean, both of them.
right.
Who's the president of the board at Don's Bank now? American State Bank. Lee Ward still?
I'm not sure. I know it's nobody from St. John.
But if you take all their area, they do represent a pretty big area.
Yeah.
Bank in Maxville, Great Bend, Wilton, you know,
Or
it'd be devastating to them too.
Yeah, people that live in town just think this isn't gonna affect them at all. They're sorting. So I try to get as many, whatever publicity we can get on that, because I mean, I think that's our best bet.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of, I feel like this is getting all pushed ahead just because Barfield's wanting to retire in 6-7 months, and he's wanting to get this deal done. It's, you know,
I still think
Well-
that's the case.
I think that's it, is the case.
He can take the heat for it and retire.
But I also, it's almost like the chess playing of appointing judges or something like that. Would the next one be worse?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree with Orrin on the fact that he likes it, it's all rested upon one position that you have no control
I don't
over.
like that.
I don't
I
either.
think it ought to be a committee because, I mean, it's with one
Right.
person, it's. not
I
good.
know what he's trying to say, is that there's no political influence, that resting that power in a dictator like that is not right, but has no accountability to anybody.
Yeah,
I do not,
there's really not an appeals process,
No.
right? So
he's got the final say so
Yeah.
on
I don't know
anything.
that I mean, here's the thing, you get into the ability to continually appeal stuff, and nobody, especially farmers, don't wanna be in continual litigation over property and stuff. I mean, I can get that there could be a Pandora's box to some of that stuff, but
Yeah,
Because I mean, the amount of power he had, you know, on the Lima, that's a voluntary deal. On an Aguga, that's where he just comes in and states. I mean, he could come in at any point and say, all irrigation in Rattlesnake Basin shut off. It's all dry now. I mean, and somebody to have that kind of power?
it's
Scary.
Yeah, it is. But it's not saying that the next guy can't come in, whoever appoints him can come in and change stuff.
Well,
Because I have letters that was sent to my dad in '99, when we had this fight, whether we were in the Ark or the Rattlesnake, and I've got letters stating that we are in the Ark, and that any stipulation put on Rattlesnake will never take effect on our ground. Well, now all of a sudden we're put in the Rattlesnake as of last August.
Trying to drag everybody in.
Yeah, they used to say it was 5 miles.
Yeah.
If you were within 5 miles of the rattlesnake. You don't hear that stated anymore.
Interesting. Okay, so methodology for follow-up, like, do I need your signatures outside of a, or I guess I could bring it to Nita and they can sign it at, or something like that, has a,
You'll be gone the next 2 weeks.
leaving like,
Tuesday afternoon.
so we got between now and Tuesday. Okay.
Go ahead and just sign it.
Better get a signature before you leave.
Yeah, we can, if you get it to me, we can get it out there.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the September 12th meeting.
Second.
Then move and second to accept the minutes of September 12th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll recess. So I forgot how many, I lost count on the loads of oil. It was like 24.
Probably, at least, there's 2 or 3
24 loads, an average of $10,000 a load.
Yeah.
Do the math.
Such a corn cutter.
Part of the cut.
Dry land or?
I got,
Oh,
we've got 2 circles there, good cut.
so grand
and all my
opening
dry
for the same
land.
day.
And Nelson's wanting to try his Milo today. And I'm gonna start cutting beans tomorrow.
You got all the corn cut then?
Now, we've still got like 7 circles to cut. But it's long season.
Is that yours or for some?
I've got 3 of mine and then 4 for Nelson.
So, anything else, guys?
Nope.
Okay, we're adjourned.